There's one truth we all learn some the hard way. Pain is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to shape you, to strip away what no longer serves you, to expose your strength, to awaken your purpose. You may have cried, broken, or fallen, but those moments weren't setbacks. They were seeds, seeds of growth, planted deep inside the soil of struggle, because pain forces what comfort never will: change, awareness, power. This journey is not about avoiding pain. It's about transforming it. And these 10 positive habits are not just survival tools. They are your blueprint for becoming unstoppable. Let's begin. We live in a world that teaches us to avoid pain at all costs. We run from it. We numb it. We distract ourselves with noise, with busyness, with anything that helps us avoid the weight in our chest or the fire behind our eyes. But here's the truth: pain that is suppressed is never healed. What you bury will find a way to rise, and usually at the worst time. That's why the first habit isn't about escaping pain. It's about feeling it fully. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? To heal, you must hurt. To grow, you must allow yourself to sit in the discomfort, not bypass it. But there's a sacred power in feeling deeply. When you give yourself permission to feel without judgment, without explanation, you begin the process of becoming whole again. Most people fear pain because they think it will break them. But what if it's actually breaking the shell that's kept them small? What if that heartbreak wasn't the end, but the beginning of discovering your capacity to love again? What if that loss wasn't a punishment, but an invitation to cherish life at a deeper level? Feeling pain is not weakness, it's the beginning of wisdom. It means you're awake, alive, still open to life, even when it hurts. Think of a wound. If you cover it up and pretend it's not there, it gets infected. But if you clean it, tend to it, feel the sting, and let it breathe, healing begins. Emotional wounds are the same. The moment you allow the grief, the anger, the sadness to move through you instead of holding it in, you start to move forward. This habit requires courage, the courage to sit in silence with yourself, the bravery to look in the mirror and say, "I'm not okay right now." And that's okay, because true strength isn't pretending everything's fine. True strength is saying, "This hurts, but I will not run. I will feel it, and I will rise." Feeling it fully is not about wallowing. It's about honesty, and honesty is the first step to transformation. So let the tears come. Let the silence speak. Let the ache teach. Because the pain you dare to feel today is the pain that will no longer control you tomorrow. Once you've allowed yourself to feel, the next step is to reframe, to rise in the ruins. Because after the breakdown, there must come a decision, not just to survive, but to build something new from what's been broken. Failure. That word alone carries shame for so many. We treat it like a sentence, a final verdict that says, "You're not enough." But what if we've misunderstood failure all along? You didn't fail, you learned. You didn't fall, you built a foundation. You didn't break down, you broke open. This is the second habit, developing the mindset that every failure is a lesson dressed in pain. When you shift the way you see your failures, you shift your relationship with growth itself. Failure becomes less of a dead end and more of a detour, less of a punishment and more of a preparation. Think back to something in your life you thought would destroy you. Maybe it was a business collapse, a relationship that ended in betrayal, a dream that didn't happen the way you envisioned it. In that moment, it felt like life was against you. But now look at you. Look at how much stronger, wiser, and more intentional you've become. Pain never leaves you the same. But whether it leaves you bitter or better, that's your choice. Reframing failure is about asking new questions, not, why did this happen to me? But what did this awaken in me? Not, what did I lose? But what did I gain through the loss? Not, what went wrong? But what's the deeper lesson here? You're not meant to stay buried in your failure. You are meant to rise from it different, evolved, more you than you've ever been. But you can't rise if you're still holding on to the version of yourself that broke. You've got to release the illusion of perfection and embrace the power of resilience. Rock bottom is not the end of the road. It's the ground on which you build the strongest foundation. And the ruins, they are not your shame, they are your evidence. Evidence that you tried, that you lived, that you dared. And now, you get to rebuild not from scratch, but from experience. Rising in the ruins means owning your story, not hiding from it. It means turning your past pain into present power. It means knowing that your scars are not signs of defeat, but proof that you were brave enough to battle. Let the world see your rebuild. Let them witness the beauty born from the ashes. Because when you reframe your failure, you don't just grow, you inspire others to do the same. In a world that rewards speed, loudness, and non-stop movement, we've forgotten the sacred power of stillness. We move fast to outrun our thoughts. We scroll to silence our feelings. We chase success to avoid confronting our wounds. But here's the truth: no one ever healed by running away from what hurt them. The deeper healing comes when you stop, when you pause, when you choose reflection over escape. Stillness is not about doing nothing. It's about doing the most important thing: listening to your own soul. Pain has a voice, and it only speaks in silence. If you never stop long enough to hear it, you'll never understand what it's trying to teach you. You'll keep repeating the same cycles, the same habits, the same mistakes, because the lesson was always buried inside the silence you were too afraid to face. Reflection is where clarity is born. It's the quiet space between the noise where you meet yourself raw, real, and unfiltered. It's where you ask, why am I hurting? What am I afraid of? What pattern keeps showing up in my life? And most importantly, who am I becoming through this? Pain that is not reflected on becomes pain that is recycled. You bleed on people who didn't cut you. You carry the weight of years on your shoulders without even realizing it. That's why this habit matters so deeply. When you make time for inner stillness, you don't just find peace, you make sense of your pain. Sit with yourself. No distractions, no filters, just silence and breath. It will be uncomfortable at first. Your mind will scream, move, escape, distract. But if you stay, just stay, the layers will begin to peel back. And beneath the anger, beneath the fear, beneath the sadness, you will find wisdom. You don't have to go to a mountain or meditate for hours. Stillness can be 5 minutes alone in the morning, a walk without your phone, a notebook and pen. What matters is the intention, to understand yourself, not to avoid yourself. This habit is a gift. It's how you stop reacting and start responding. It's how you start catching your triggers instead of becoming them. And over time, it's how you build emotional intelligence, resilience, and self-trust. The world tells you to run. Pain tells you to pause. Choose the pause. That's where transformation begins. Once you learn to pause and reflect, the next step is learning how to ask the right questions. Because the questions you ask yourself shape the answers your life gives you. Most people live in mental loops, asking the same broken questions that produce the same broken results. Why does this always happen to me? What's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? But here's the secret. Your brain is a problem solver. It's built to find answers. So when you ask disempowering questions, it will search for disempowering answers. That's why the habit of curious self-inquiry is so critical. When pain hits, instead of spiraling, you must shift the narrative. You must stop asking victim-centered questions and start asking growth-centered ones. Change the question to, what is this pain trying to teach me? How am I being called to grow through this? What part of me needs healing, not hiding these? Questions don't deny your pain, they dignify it. They invite your soul into the conversation. And when you stop blaming and start becoming curious, everything shifts. Curiosity is the birthplace of self-awareness, and self-awareness is the foundation of every transformation. When you become curious, you're no longer judging yourself, you're studying yourself. You're no longer at war with your feelings, you're learning from them. That's where emotional maturity is born. Start small. At the end of your day, ask, what did I learn about myself today? What triggered me and why? Where did I act out of fear? And where did I act from love? This habit doesn't require perfection. It just requires honesty. Brutal, courageous, liberating honesty. Because the better the questions, the deeper the insights. And the deeper the insights, the faster you evolve. You don't need all the answers right now, but you do need better questions. Questions that move you forward, questions that open your heart, questions that turn pain into power. This is how you shift from being a victim of your story to becoming the author of your future. Sometimes what's weighing you down isn't the pain itself, it's your grip on it. We try to control outcomes, people, timelines. We grip our past like a shield, afraid to let it go because at least it's familiar. But here's a truth that will set you free. We've been taught that strength looks like holding on. But real strength is knowing when letting go isn't giving up. It's growing up. It's realizing that your peace is more valuable than your pride. That your healing matters more than being right. That the chapter you're clinging to may be the very thing stopping the next one from beginning. Pain has a way of making us want to control everything. We think if we manage every detail, every emotion, we can prevent more heartbreak. But control is an illusion, and clinging to it only deepens our suffering. You cannot heal and hold on at the same time. You have to let go of the people who walked away, the apology you never got, the version of life you thought you'd have by now, the need to know why things happened the way they did. Because healing doesn't come through answers. It comes through acceptance. It comes when you say, I don't understand why, but I trust that I don't need to in order to be free. Releasing control doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start surrendering to the truth that life is unpredictable, and that's okay. That not everything broken is meant to be fixed. That sometimes your freedom begins where your control ends. Letting go creates space for joy, for peace, for new beginnings. But you can't receive what's next if your hands are still full of what used to be. So, breathe. Loosen your grip. Release the resentment, the shame, the fear, the overthinking. Say goodbye to what no longer serves you, even if it once meant everything. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's forgiving yourself, others, life. It's the brave act of choosing freedom over familiarity. Because you're not meant to carry it all. You're meant to rise. Everyone has wounds. Some are visible loss, heartbreak, betrayal. Others are silent and spoken fears, childhood scars, emotional neglect. But here's the truth most people never realize. Your wounds are not just places of pain. They are places of potential. The sixth habit is simple, but life-changing. Learn from the hurt. Let it teach you. Let it transform you. Pain is a messenger. It shows up not to punish you, but to wake you, to shake you out of autopilot, to reveal the parts of you that are still tender, still growing, still unfinished. The hurt you feel is often the greatest clue to where you need healing and where you hold power. You haven't fully claimed when you shift your mindset from why is this happening to me to what can I learn from this. You stop being a victim of your story and start becoming the author of your growth. Think back to your deepest pain. What did it reveal to you? Maybe it taught you boundaries. Maybe it taught you the difference between attachment and love. Maybe it showed you your resilience, your fire, your refusal to stay down. These are not small lessons. These are the raw materials of transformation. But the habit of turning wounds into wisdom requires intention. It means pausing in your pain long enough to ask, what is this trying to teach me? What belief is this challenging? What part of myself do I need to protect, heal, or reclaim? Wisdom doesn't come automatically. It comes when you mine your experiences for truth. When you dig through the rubble of heartbreak and say, there is meaning here, and I will find it. You are not weak because you were wounded. You are strong because you dared to survive. But survival alone isn't the goal. Evolution is. When you turn your pain into a lesson, it stops being a weight and becomes a weapon, a tool, a source of strength you carry into the next battle, the next challenge, the next chapter. And this habit doesn't just transform you, it positions you to help others. Because wisdom, once earned, becomes the light you can shine into someone else's darkness. You don't have to be fully healed to grow. You just have to be willing to learn from what broke you. You just have to stop asking how to erase the past and start asking how to rise from it. Because wounds may break you open, but what you do with them, that's what defines you. There's a silent truth about pain that most people never talk about. Pain gets stuck in the body. Emotional wounds don't just live in your mind, they take up space in your muscles, your breath, your posture, the heaviness you feel on your chest, the tension in your shoulders, the fatigue in your bones. It's not just physical, it's energy and processed, unspoken pain that never had a chance to move through you. That's why this habit matters so deeply. You must move the energy. We are energetic beings. Emotions are energy in motion. And when you suppress your emotions, they don't disappear. They settle. They store. They weigh you down until your body starts to speak what your lips never said. You feel stuck not because you're lazy, but because your pain has no outlet. But here's the good news. Your body is your ally in healing. Movement is not just about exercise, it's about emotional release. It's about shaking off what no longer belongs. It's about honoring the truth that your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. Go for a walk in silence. Stretch with presence. Dance like no one's watching. Breathe deeply. Let the tears fall during a run, or the anger release through a punch into a pillow. Let your body feel it, then move it. You don't need to run a marathon. You just need to reconnect. When you treat your body like sacred ground, it responds with strength, clarity, and resilience. When you move with intention, you remind yourself that healing isn't just in the mind, it lives in your limbs, in your breath, in your spine. And here's the secret. Motion creates emotion. When you feel powerless, move like someone who has power. When you feel broken, stand tall. When you feel lost, walk with direction even if you don't know where you're going yet. Your body will follow your decision long before your emotions do. The pain you're carrying isn't meant to stay stagnant. It's meant to flow, to rise, to leave. But it needs your participation. Your body is not just a vessel, it's a bridge between hurt and healing. And when you move with presence, you begin to clear the emotional weight that's been stuck inside for far too long. Move the energy. Don't let it rot in your bones. Let it rise and let it leave. Your freedom depends on it. What you say to yourself in your darkest moments will shape the world you live in when the light returns. Words are not just sound, they are seeds. And every word you speak, especially to yourself, either waters your healing or poisons your progress. The eighth habit is the most underestimated and yet one of the most transformational. Speak light into your darkness. We all carry an inner voice, but for many of us, that voice has turned against us. It echoes with old wounds, inherited shame, and cruel labels we picked up from broken people. I'm not enough. I always mess things up. Nothing ever changes. I deserve this pain. But here's the truth. Just because you heard those words doesn't mean you have to repeat them. Your inner voice is not fixed, it's trained. And you can retrain it. You can choose to speak differently, even when your feelings haven't caught up yet. Your pain doesn't get to write your narrative, you do. And it starts with the words you choose to say out loud and silently in your mind. Instead of "I'm broken," say "I'm healing." Instead of "I failed," say "I learned." Instead of "I can't do this," say "This is hard, but I am stronger." This is not about blind positivity. This is about truthful transformation. It's about finding a voice inside yourself that doesn't ignore the pain, but refuses to be defined by it. Healing begins when your language shifts. Because your words create your world, think of the people in your life who needed encouragement, who needed just one kind word. Now imagine becoming that person for yourself. Wake up and say what you want to become. Speak as if you already believe in the person you're becoming. Affirm the strength that your pain tried to silence. Because the words you say in private become the reality you live in public. Don't let the darkness speak louder than your soul. When everything feels like it's falling apart, declare what is still possible. Use your voice like a weapon of light. Use it to fight for yourself. Use it to remind your spirit that you are still here, still standing, still becoming. Your voice is sacred, so speak light, speak life, speak healing, and over time, those words will no longer feel like a lie. They'll feel like truth, because they will be. There's something sacred about scars. They are the quiet proof that you endured what was meant to break you and survived. They don't scream like open wounds, but they speak softly, powerfully. They say, "I've been through something, and I came out on the other side." And this is the 9th habit. Serve from the scar. Share your story not from the pain that broke you, but from the strength that rebuilt you. Too many people believe they have to be fully healed to be of help. But that's not true. Healing is not a destination. It's a journey. One that becomes lighter when you stop walking it alone. Your story, the one you think is too messy, too dark, too painful, is exactly the story someone else needs to hear. Someone out there is facing what you once faced, and while they're drowning in their silence, your voice could be the oxygen they didn't know they needed. There is power in purposeful sharing. When you choose to speak not for attention, but for impact, everything changes. Because the moment you serve from your scar, your pain is no longer just your own. It becomes a bridge, a connection point, a source of light for someone stuck in their night. This habit calls for vulnerability, and yes, vulnerability is scary, but it's also magnetic. People don't connect to your perfection. They connect to your truth, your humanness, your courage to show up as you are and say, "I've been there too." Maybe you write, maybe you speak, maybe you just sit with a friend and say, "I know how that feels." Maybe your service isn't with words, but with presence, showing up with empathy instead of advice. Your scar doesn't need to be explained. It needs to be offered as proof, as guidance, as hope. Because when you turn your survival into someone else's roadmap, your pain becomes purpose. And purpose is the most powerful painkiller there is. So don't hide your scars. Use them. They are your legacy in the making. Pain has a way of narrowing your vision. It makes you believe that this moment, this heartbreak, this chaos, this dark night is all there is, that nothing will ever change, that this is where the story ends. But here's the truth. This is just a chapter, and the 10th habit is about remembering that truth and seeing beyond the now. Visualize a future beyond the pain, because if you can see it, you can walk toward it. Hope is not wishful thinking. It is intentional imagining. It is choosing to believe in something brighter, not because it's guaranteed, but because your soul needs something to hold onto. You may not control everything about your situation, but you control what you focus on. And what you focus on expands. Start by closing your eyes and asking yourself, who am I becoming through this pain? What does the healed version of me look like? What kind of life do I want to step into when this storm passes? Visualize it in detail. The peace, the strength, the confidence, the love. Picture yourself smiling again, free again, whole again. Even if it feels far away, imagine it anyway. Because the brain is powerful. It doesn't always know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. And if you feed it images of hope, it will start building a pathway toward that hope, even when your heart still feels uncertain. This habit isn't about denying the pain. It's about declaring, this pain is temporary, and something better is coming. When you make space in your mind for the future, you make space in your spirit for healing. Write down your vision, speak it out loud. Hang pictures that represent the life you're walking into. Create reminders that say, there's more for me. I'm not finished. I'm just in process. This habit keeps you alive inside when life tries to shut you down. It whispers when everything else screams. It says, you are still becoming. Keep going. Don't give up on the version of you that you haven't met yet. Because one day, you'll wake up and realize the vision you once imagined. You're now living it. But first, you must believe. First, you must see it before you ever arrive.